All good now, Doug.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. We have a next step conversation today with the most amazing Nazri Muhd of MyFinB. Last week we discussed the centers of excellence that we're setting up around artificial intelligence, not just to set them up, the goal being to help companies be more successful and to incorporate artificial intelligence into their business so that they can renew, rejuvenate, and restore the economies around the world. The artificial intelligence, as we know, is here to stay. It's an expanding knowledge base that every business should be incorporating in, and it may seem difficult or challenging, but it doesn't need to be. And so one of the things that Nazri talked about last time and as a recurring theme is that it's doable, it's possible, and that we within Global Chamber have the capability in collaboration with MyFinB to bring these technologies to companies in Asia and around the world. And so that's what we're doing. And so we appreciate, Nazri, your information all along the way, including last week's conversation. I think today we're going to do any follow-up and finishing up of that. And we're also going to be talking about business to university collaboration around artificial intelligence as well. So thank you for your leadership on this and other topics. We appreciate your knowledge about technology and particularly around the ability of incorporating AI into businesses so they can be more successful. And so where would you like to start today?
Thanks, Doug and Cesar. We are here basically to identify opportunities on how AI can be applied in your business with a distinctive difference, with a distinctive edge in terms of how we can work with universities and institutes of higher learning. So previously, we just talked about AI as a business, but what if AI as a business is interspersed with some form of innovation involving the institutes of higher learning, i.e. the universities? So this is where we are at now, and I can tell you for sure there's enormous opportunities for us to work with the universities to unleash innovations, to unleash various technologies that have been incubated, that have been documented, that have been curated within the university grounds that have not been commercialized. So you are sitting on thousands, if not tens of thousands of innovations that are waiting to be embraced, adopted, adapted by the industries and commercialize it for a win-win outcome. So we are here to look at it from a different dimension and how the universities can play a part. So there are 5 parts to this discussion today. This is on first of all, again, a reflection of what CAI at GC is all about, and basically we will also touch on the framework on how universities and industries, i.e. the businesses, can work together. Where can we align ourselves with them and vice versa? Where can we find that strategic fit? And the next one will be the areas for collaboration. What are the type of verticals that can be explored and that can turn out into 30 different ideas, 30 different categories of ideas that can be spawned into hundreds of further product solutions that can be rolled out to the market. And the 4th part is what sort of outcome and impact that can be derived from these projects. And last but not least is the commercial aspects. Where would the funding for these projects be obtained? And these are some of the examples that will be discussed and followed by, preceded by some case studies, and then followed by some action plans that we will go through this. So why we are here is because we want to challenge the status quo. You are only here listening in because you want to do something different. You want to discover new ways of doing things. You want to diversify the way you make money, the kind of sources, and to diversify those sources of income as part of your business model. So we are here not to look at the historics. We are here not to look at old ways of doing things, but we are here to find out new ways of doing things. Okay, and we believe that if we break the status quo, we can create something new, and we can create that blue ocean strategy. We can create that competitive edge, that differentiated strategy that will give us an edge, over the others in this crazy world of COVID. So, but it's good to recall what through these initiatives, what would the role of GC play in terms of its center of excellence in AI innovation, how you can be part of this exciting journey. So as an introduction, our vision is really to create a positive and sustainable impact, not just for businesses, but for people and society as a whole, the use of AI. So you need not have knowledge of programming, you need not have knowledge of computer science, even if you run traditional businesses, even if you run the usual way of doing things in a non-techie manner, the CAI provides that impetus or that drive for you to be empowered with technology that can then be turned and spawned into commercial programs. So we are here to support you, and we grow through strategic partnerships and through education and raising awareness on the positive effects of AI. So there are three verticals of what CI at Global Chamber does. Okay, within the center, we be focused on venture building. We will develop assets and inject into ongoing businesses to scale. So you can be a traditional businesses, but you'll get a dosage of healthy steroids, vitamins, to basically grow and soar your business. So there are many examples of the transformation that's been going on, not just for private sector, but also for public agencies and non-profit agencies. And middle part will be the capacity building, where it forms a central part of our business, where we do consulting, training to help management and workforce to reskill and upskill for the digital economy post-COVID. And the third one will be, of course, the design, development, and launch of AI expert systems. They are on a plug and play basis, or that are on a customized basis. So either you use AI or you build AI. So this is the kind of opportunities that exist or that can be derived from the CI at Global Chamber. So back to the main agenda, can the private sector do business with universities? And can the universities do business with private sector? So we might think that universities are just a place to learn. Universities are a place to study, to take courses, right? But do you know that at least 1/3 of the university's focus is on industry projects or consultancy? And this is where they can collaborate with the private sector like us to basically fit in where they need, they have some gaps, and we also need them to fill up some gaps that we face. So there are some synergies that exist, and there are numerous case studies that illustrate just that. So before we go down to the details, it's good to understand the framework that governs how universities and businesses work together. Where is that strategic fit? Where is that strategic alignment? So it's important to know a few things, about both parties. Number one is, what's the primary focus of university and what's the primary focus of business? So for university, as you know, the primary focus is on education. It's a curation of knowledge, it's a distillation, it's a teaching, is the inculcation, is the promulgation of knowledge pertaining to specific areas involving the industry. Okay, but still very focused on academic, while business is very much on profit driven, right? Of course, within the profit drive or goals, they will certainly have their own non-profit goals, like sustainable development goals, SDGs and ESGs and all that. But primarily, they have to make money before they can do good things in basic terms. Priorities will be to grow the business, expand into markets, right? For universities is to take on many students, to focus on innovation, to build as many research papers and projects as possible that will benefit the industries. And time horizon for us is like every minute is money, every hour is money, every month, every week. We have to think of payrolls, we have to think of the business growth, we have to think of capital. For universities, of course, they think of that, but typically they will have some form of funding that will last them through many years ahead. Okay, and our KPIs, although there will be some overlap, but majority of it are very much centered on our own respective goals, which is one for profit, one for knowledge, right? So I'm generalizing, but you realize that there are gaps that exist between two parties, and for us to work together, we need to bridge those gaps. And one model to understand this is through understanding what you call the TRL. I didn't define what TRL is in the earlier slides, but TRL means technology readiness level. So for universities to talk, quote unquote, talk to the industry and vice versa, we have to talk in a language of TRL. It stands for technology readiness level. It's first developed by NASA. right, to basically identify the stages of technology maturity, the maturity of your technology. So this was actually developed by NASA, this concept of TRL. And so it has now been used by universities for a very long time and adopted by many, many government agencies to identify the maturity of each technology. If you look at the earlier numbers, right, TRL 1 to 3, you realize that these are very much conceptual, very much on, very much conceptual and very much on the theoretical side of things. Let me just go back a little bit. TRL 1 to 3 especially, right? So whenever the universities talk about their research paper being concepts, being about foundation, about some principles, about some models, about some framework, these are tiered within the TRLs of 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then when it moves to 4, 5, 6, it began to go into pilot mode. It begins to get into a testing mode with the industries. And this is where, when you are reaching 4, 5, 6, you bring your research papers from 1, 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6. You have to involve the industries. You cannot work and function within the academia world anymore. You got to bring in the private sector. You got to bring in the agencies. You got to bring in the agents in the ecosystem, right, to work on the prototypes, to work on the pilot, to work on the proof of concept that emanates from your research paper, which is in a 1, 2, 3 stage. So when you're moving into 4, 5, 6, you have to put that theoretical concepts into practice, but in a safe environment, in a controlled environment. So that's where 4, 5, 6 comes in. Okay, and then when you mature into TRL 7 and 8, when you transcend into 7 and 9, all right, you begin to start to launch it to a wider audience. Instead of 1 or 2 partners, now you are rolling out to 10, 20, 30 partners in 3, 4, 5 regions and so on. So this is where the industry will take the responsibility. The onus of commercializing then falls upon the industry to bring your research paper that was conceptualized in 1, 2, 3, that was piloted in 4, 5, 6, and then to commercialize in 7, 8, 9. So this is where the language of speaking to universities exists by segmenting between the TRL 1 to 9. Okay, so with this framework in mind, okay, what do we have in store? So in university industry partnerships, right, stands for UIP. Okay, we basically have 4 tracks. One is to create research papers together with the university based on the needs and pain points of the industries. Second is to collaborate on existing program that industries are working on, and we bring in the academicians to help us in the research, consultancy, or even the advisory panel, for example. And then track 3 talks about being part of our series of webinars and seminars. We convert their courses, their programs that they carry out in the degree, diploma, or postgrad, or any form of micro credentials. We turn it into more industry friendly, more industry ready focus by tweaking and borrowing from their materials. So track 4 will then be about systems development. That means we create new R&D and commercialize it to the market. So there are 4 areas of how we collaborate beyond systems, beyond consulting, but also through education. So by having this model, you will realize that the language will be befitting, will be very, very compatible to both parties. So this is the first step of understanding how to work with the universities across any faculties. It could be from business, could be from medical, could be from the humanities, and so on. Okay, so this model works across faculties and across disciplines. To date, believe it or not, since the beginning of the year, January, actually after Christmas, we've launched aggressive marketing program. And with the simple model that we advocated, we have attracted more than 10,000 lecturers in our network, 740 plus faculties, 560 lecturers and researchers who pledged their research work with us. Together with 560 lecturers who pledged 430 research titles with us. So these are some of the examples of the traction that we get, and these numbers are growing very rapidly just out of Asia. So imagine if we open it up to your respective home countries by bringing all the universities, faculties in the region as well as in local, you will attract a lot of traction and a lot of innovation will be unleashed. So various public, private universities are basically part of this program and very exciting times indeed. Some are foreign universities parked in a local country. Some are government-funded universities. Some are privately funded universities. And I'm going to show you some quick, under 1 minute examples of how we work with universities. These are probably 10 out of 430 research work that we are working together. So just giving you an example of this in short spurts. It's interesting to see how simple research paper that are very static in nature gets converted into AI systems. So this is the kind of collaboration that we bring from TRL 1, 2, 3 all the way to 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, right? From concepts to pilot to prototypes, right? To pilot and then to full commercialization. For those who just tuned in, what you're seeing on screen right now, blurb of how basically universities basically pledge their research projects with us, and we convert them into systems that can be commercialized in partnership with them and with other businesses. I can see Doug going on live. Anything to add, Doug?
Well, actually, I thank you for clarifying that. When you say systems, what does that mean? I imagine each one of these could be an app, or is that the way to look at it? Or is when you say system, what are you saying?
It has to be an app. It has to be an expert system that is AI driven. So, so what it means that we did, as I mentioned, TRL 1 to 3 are basically research papers, right?
Yep.
So if you were to Google technology readiness level, you will have a definition of what is TRL 1 to 9. So in the language of industries and universities and funders into or research grants, right, that look into all these innovative projects, they will need to do some form of tiering. Where is your research located at? Is it at the research stage? Is it at a prototype stage? Is it at the implementation stage? Is it at a commercialization stage? So again, this model was invented by NASA and to identify the maturity of your tech or tech ideas. So when we receive TRL 1 to 3 in the form of a 100-page research paper, right? Like a concept paper, we turn it into a prototype first, into a system, into an apps, or into an expert system, a cloud-based expert system. So then we seek for funding. We seek funding. And then the funding will depend on whether you are a TRL 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So the amount will vary depending on the stage of your technology maturity. There are many, many examples that I'll show you later. In fact, 5 specific examples on how certain grants are being used to fund certain projects at the tiering of the readiness level. So whatever you're seeing here is just to show you the diversity of ideas that can be derived from the universities. Yeah.
Really amazing. So like, for instance, this particular one, DNA of top women leaders, a paper was done, and has there actually been an app developed or a concept for an app, and then the concept gets pitched for funding?
Yeah, so we are at the moment converting all these research papers into an app stage. So when the lecturers pledge their research work with us, we will then get into a joint ownership of the IP, intellectual property asset. They own A, we own B. We develop the full system called C. C is the DNA scorecard of top women leaders, for example. So their research paper, in this case, right, this particular university with this particular faculty, focus on women who are successful in social entrepreneurship in a particular state, right? So, but what we did was we expanded further by using AI to uncover the DNA of top women leaders. They can be in corporate side, they can be in social entrepreneur side, globally. They can be from Africa, they can be from USA, right? So we use AI to troll the information. We look at common attributes, we look at the differentiated attributes, and then we cascade, we then pull what are the different types of skill, attributes, or personality that are associated with successful people in the respective industry. So when we curate all this information, right, we study how they react into certain circumstances, they react, on some circumstances, and then we turn it into an app, and then we use it to guide, the local budding or aspiring, women entrepreneurs or people or women who want to excel in the corporate world. So it becomes like a robo advisor for women, dedicated, for women, and how successful women overcome all the various barriers that are unique to women, how they overcome that, how they became successful. So we studied the research papers provided by the researchers, and then we turn it into a system, a prototype. So we are at the stage now that we're in the midst of converting this into a system, and we are pitching for funding through various government agencies. So what you're seeing here is very much live. It's only about 2 weeks old, right? So and these are in the dozens, and going to the hundreds very soon when you have a lot of these academicians coming forward and and we select those that we feel will be of use to the industry. So within the GC community, we are hoping that there are advisors, there are experts, there are admirable women leaders who can become part of this program, and they can partake in the commercial upside of this project, either at the pre-launch stage, at the grant stage, or post-grant stage. Yeah.
I see. And then ultimately there would be an app that women could download, and that would be a robo-advisor, if you will, for them in their own leadership, to guide them, to help them, to support them based on what we know works with other women.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we can make it uniquely to one country. We can make it into global apps, and then it becomes like a guiding principle, like a GPS for women who face their own struggles. For this to come up, there would have been a study about the struggles of women trying to rise up the corporate ladder, try to excel in the social entrepreneurship world, trying to succeed in the entrepreneurship world. So there are numerous studies that talk about barriers. So we have a bunch of researchers locally as well as globally who writes about this. So whenever a researcher writes about this, she would have made references to 50 other global researchers worldwide, right, to talk about constraints or barriers to women and how to overcome them. So so people like us, the industry, will bring their TRL, early stage TRL, into a prototype, into a full system. And this system becomes a global app ultimately. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's fantastic. How many do you have in the queue right now?
Sorry, I don't know how to pause this. Can I go on with a few examples?
Yeah, just quick question. How many roughly?
How do I pause this? Hang on a sec. Yeah, go ahead. Let me find ways to pause this because it's an embedded file.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, you were saying?
Roughly how many do you have in the queue right now in terms of kind of in this stage that are being developed?
We have to process 60 plus out of 500. Yeah. So for this period, we are processing about 60 of such projects out of 500 who are registered with us. So for the whole year, we have 500 to work on, but with partnerships through GC, with strategic partnerships like with GC and the respective centers, we can onboard more industry players, more academicians who will have their own model, and they will build their own innovation in their respective country with our support. So you can see the diversity of ideas here that keeps me awake at night, not because of stress, but the excitement and the uniqueness of each of these projects that requires a certain solution to address a certain problem. So I like all these projects that we selected, quite diversified, from health tech to mental psychological tools to medical, right, to health medical, education, financial, marketing and consumer, and so on. So earlier on, you can see education, which is quite a popular thing, evergreen. So there are two education examples that we shown here. May I show it, Doug?
Yeah, please go ahead. Is the volume on?
Oh, is the volume off? Let me just try to share again.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be on. Okay, the other one is for school dropouts, because there's a sharp rise in school dropouts in the secondary school level. more relevant for the manufacturing industry. And the last one, certainly not the least. This is extremely useful in cases where the economy or the industry or institution is opening up to global environment, global culture, and exacerbated by the fact that because of COVID, right, you don't actually have handshakes anymore. You communicate everything through digital means, and there's no little chemistry, little reading, little understanding of each other's body language, culture, nuances, and all that. So there was a study that feels the need for some of the pain points that faced by the industry. So then moving on, within the realms of CAI at GC, we'll be launching to meet the growing demands of people who want to be certified in AI, but do not have the technical, scientific, computer science knowledge, programming, coding knowledge. So how do we make this available for professionals, for businesses without knowledge in computer science? So hence we see the need for it. We call it the CAAI, Certification in Applied AI. Okay, and this is basically how we are going to collaborate with universities to get them closer to us and get them involved where they're strongest at, i.e. the education. We'll explain more the CAI very shortly. And to understand the areas of collaboration, there are 30 areas that will be carried out. Okay, so I will not go through all 30, but look at the 10 first. So every country needs this 10 industry or sector focus to prepare themselves for IR 4.0, to bring themselves well ahead in the digital economy, from energy, business, cultural arts, medical and healthcare, and so on, all the way to environment, biodiversity. Now that's horizontal, right? But if you look vertically down, you will see that there will be various aspects of technological or innovation that will be the driver for that sector. Okay, just taking a quick glimpse of it, we give you an idea the kind of innovation that is needed to propel each vertical. So in CI at GC, we will spend time to go and select for each country, for each chapter, which of the 10 verticals are of strategic nature for that country. And then within that vertical, we go down and we identify where we can innovate, okay, and go deeper into creating an apps, into creating an expert system, into creating a technology solution for to address some of the pain points in each of these vertical. So again, this is just a framework for us to collaborate with universities in your home country or even overseas universities. So what we are creating is an ecosystem of industries and institutes of higher learning for each of these vertical. So innovation does not stay still, right? The old way of doing things can be rejuvenated with new framework, new universities, and it's not just from Dak or Nazri. It's from the universities, from the professors, from the doctors, right? From the experts in the industry, from the industries. So in here, our job is to facilitate, and we ourselves as practitioners will be able to value add in the form of AI innovation. So going back to the certification, so this is something that we are very interested to launch, and we have all the relevant materials, all the relevant connections, all the relevant portfolio, the relevant faculty at our end in Asia, right? But now we want to expand it beyond Asia. So who amongst us will be able to be part of it, either as a trainee or as a promoter of this program that you can help to champion and lead in your home country. It's the first ever that focuses or gets structured in a very unique way. Why do we say unique? Because there's 3 levels. We'll talk about the foundation, right? First, you need to understand the concepts, right? Second, you need to apply those concepts, and you yourself, with your hands, with your brains, with the tools that we give to you, you will have to develop your own solution, your own blueprint with our help. Okay, and based on your own problem statements. So it's not we give you the case. You find the case, you develop the blueprint, design, then design the solutions with us. We'll help you with it. And then at the advanced stage, you have to apply it elsewhere into actual clients, actual companies, actual stakeholders, whether they're from public, private, or non-profit. So first part is the foundation. Second part is your own problem statement that you're solving. It could be your own employer, could be your own venture, could be your own business, could be your own client. And the third advanced stage is where we bring you to the market, okay, where you're solving bigger problems at the regional or national level. So this is how unique it is. And the key benefits of it is you can have new skill set, you can widen your network, build fantastic portfolio, and then you can design and build your own prototype with dedicated support and coaching. This is the uniqueness of the program. Now, whatever projects we do, either at the certification stage or industry stage or the university level, right? We need to have an impact. It's meaningless and it will be an academic theoretical exercise. You just do it because it looks good, it feels good, right? But it must create an impact. So to make sure that your projects are meaningful and worth a lot at the onset, there are some indicators, and we call it the 10 indicators of change. Okay, so anything we study, anything we do with you, right, it must create impact. So the impact can be derived from any one or several of these indicators of change. It's quite self-explanatory here. Okay, just take a quick look at it before I move on. Okay, so, okay, this is important. So you might think, okay, Nazri, how do these projects get funded? Whether you are TRL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So you have a different verticals. So let me just rewind back a little bit, okay, and help you recall what are the TRLs. Okay, so this slide is very important. Remember, TRL 1, 2, 3 is a concept stage. 4, 5, 6 is a proof of concept that's turned into a prototype that gets piloted. 7, 8, 9, the pilot becomes early stage commercialization, becomes adopted, becomes a contract, becomes an early contractual agreement with the industry who will pay you, right, for your solutions. And these solutions are very much systems driven. So it's either an apps, or it's either a portal, or it's either an expert system. Okay, it has to be technology driven, running on cloud or on premise. 4, 5, 6, it's still on system, but it's not launched. It's like a prototype. It's a beta version. 1, 2, 3 is just a research paper. Okay, that has a model, there's a formula, that has the manual of how to build the system. Okay, get it, right? So if funding is available across each of these stages, okay, as long as you're able to show that the project is impactful, it has a combination of academia, industry, new innovation is being developed to solve a real pain point. So there's a set of criteria for that, yeah? So with that in mind, let me show you the funding situation, which is the last section of our presentation before we open up for Q&A. Okay, we talk about impact measurement, right? So there must be a clear impact that's measurable. Now, there are about 20 over funding mechanism, okay, that's available, not just in Malaysia, not just in Singapore, but even as far as Sweden Europe, other parts of Europe, and so on. So there are international grants, there are local grants. Okay, but what we are showing now are just examples of how the local researchers can partner with overseas partners who will then be part of the consulting team. Okay, so a Ministry of Science and Technology in Malaysia called MOSTI provides what you call a sandbox 1, 2, 3, and 4. So single site sandbox means it's a TRL 456 and it's limited to one site. That means one building, one area, one customer, one department, right? And sandbox 2 relates to different test sandbox, right? And 3 will be you need to commercialize it. 4 will that you need to adopt it. A corporate needs to adopt it fully, right? And then to launch it to commercialization. So when we say it's eligible for Malaysians, means that the Malaysian parties, i.e. the universities, can apply for it, or startup can apply for it, but they have to pay consultants, they have to pay experts, they have to allocate part of it for IP development and so on. So there are allowable items that needs to be worked out. So if I have 500 projects, that means 500 potentially can go for this funding, but it cannot be the same projects over and over again. That's why innovation is very important. It cannot be the same old solution that you are building. It has to be something from healthcare, something for education, something for psychology or humanities, something for geography, something for environment, and so on and so forth, right? So that's why the more you build the ideas, the more it can get funded. Okay, so this shows the amount that is set aside for you to carry out your activities. Then there are also additional funding that relates to each of these has its own criteria. It could be either to solve some productivity issue, or it could be a new process of doing things, or it could be a technology that is aligned to the national agenda. Okay, so we are in the best position to guide you on what would be the angling and the positioning of it. This is per project, mind you, per project. So you get the party to apply for it. They use the grant to pay us. They don't have to fork out a single cent, and yet they get awarded for it. They own part of the project, and they can carry out the project for the country. And again, this is nothing new. Every country will have some way, some form of funding attached to it. Yeah. These are all our partners. So you want to inject an IP into a startup, you want to inject an IP into a company to grow, then you are into halal food or kosher type of food, technology fund, or rather food technology that can be funded by this fund, right? So there are different schemes and grants for this. Each of these has its own criteria. I think MIDA is somebody you work with. They have new management recently. So they have the Domestic Investment Strategic Fund. This is more for TRL 9 and above. So this is a stage where you are ready to scale, you are ready to commercialize, you have partners who wants to buy your services and want to apply it across the GC network or 10 countries or 3 countries, right? So imagine the things we talked about just now, right? Some of those products, if we pack it with a couple of GC business partners and MyFinB business partners, we get a Malaysian to apply for MIDA fund, they can use this fund to fund that project. So these are the kinds of things that could exist, okay, as an opportunity. And then we have a MASTEC fund for climate change. So again, we have projects involving the climate change, right? To track, monitor, and there's also, I think, a project that we recently onboarded, water pollution. There's certain water pollutant that exists in Penang and Sabah beaches. We were just talking about the coastal beaches, with Cesar earlier. So imagine there is some kind of bacteria, water pollutant that exists in a particular beach in Sabah and Penang in Malaysia, coastal side of Malaysia. So they want to have an early warning system, early tracking system, warning system of when these pollutants start to exist and permeate into the seas. How do you prevent such measures? So there are, water technologies or sensors that are needed to track them on a frequent basis. So this could be part of this project. Okay, so with that, I've ended my presentation, and happy to pass over the mic to Doug for any questions. Thank you, or any audience for that matter.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, regarding questions, please either raise your hand and we'll elevate you, or type the question in the area, and we'll read off your question so that Nazri can help with that. So you've given us a lot of information, and you finished up with information about various funds, primarily through Malaysia. So the interaction then there is what, that you've shown those as an illustration of what each country has. Typically, most countries have different funds available for various things, and so these are things that local people would be connected to, or could be connected to in their local country, to help fund some of these things. Is that the purpose of sharing that?
That's right. We're trying to show you a model that works in a particular country like Malaysia, who is in need of innovation. And every country needs innovation, right? And they cannot depend on student grants anymore, because the student intakes are falling generally. So they have to rely on other forms of funding, and that becomes, project-based funding becomes key. That means if the universities don't produce innovative projects that involve the industry, they don't get funding. So they need to have 20 to 25%. Every university need to have about 1/3 of their funding sources to come from industry-based projects, right? So there is a pain point that universities have to do, right? And for the businesses, we are saying that whether you are local or foreign, I think there's a question by Maimun, GC Dhaka, where he asks, can foreign companies apply for Malaysian funds in cooperation with MyFinB? So, well, MyFinB itself is a foreign company, right? Operating in Malaysia, even though we do have a majority, we do have a subsidiary operating in Malaysia. So, yes, you become the consultant. MyFinB becomes the AI partner. You become the knowledge partner, and then the university is the applicant stroke. Becomes the academic partner. So it becomes a tripartite, right? Let me put it. I don't know whether I have time. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes more. Let me see if I can try to illustrate this quickly. Okay, how the funding mechanism work is that there are three parties, right? There are three parties that is important. In fact, there are at least 4 parties, right? First, there's the government or the sponsor, right? Then there's an applicant, okay, which is the you have to be a local party. Whichever country you're in, it has to be a local, because they will protect the local party, right? And then there is the AI partner, which is MyFinB. And then there's a knowledge partner, consultant, right, which is you, right, GC. Okay, and then basically this is the structure. So this fella pays, right? Okay, can you see the basic structure here?
Yes.
Yeah. So revenue ownership sharing. Okay, so I settled the first part of it, right? The second part of it, what happens? Okay, what happens? What are you needed to do, right? You are supposed to produce a system or prototype, TRL 4 to 9. Okay. So this is the guys who has TRL 1 to 3. That means they have the concept. Okay, so we produce a system. So the question is, what happens after we produce a system? We commercialize it, right? And then we get into revenue sharing and IP, joint IP ownership. Okay, the joint IP ownership basically is divided into 2 types. One is the model and the framework, which is typically came from a researcher, right? And then this is the AI algorithms, which comes from MyFinB. And to a certain extent, if you call your market network as your IP, right? This is GC and U. Okay, if you look at the meaning of intellectual property, right, it would include clientele network, it would include market access. Okay, these are what you call the intangibles. So it's a very structured IP ownership scheme that is clearly delineated, demarcated, who provides what. Commercialize means you sell to the market at this stage. After TRL 9, right, you sell to the market because with the ready system. Okay, at this stage, you are funded by the government, right? You're funded by the grant, right? This part here. Okay, this part here, you're funded by the government. Oops. But once you hit this stage, it goes to the market. Hope that answers your question, Maimun.
Just to build
Anyone
on
else?
that,
Yeah.
to build on that, on the two different main pieces of that. So at TRL 1 through 3, when all of these ideas, I remember speaking with a president of a university once years ago, and I was telling him about Global Chamber, and he said, you know, I have no idea what all these professors are doing internationally. So he ended up setting up a global section within the university. And about a year and a half later, we met again. And he said, you know what, there's so much going on. First of all, we still can't get our hands around everything, but we at least have a better idea, and it's taken a long time. So that relates to the question of how does someone tap in to these basic ideas? What's the normal, or what have you found to be an effective way? Do you go to the business school? Is that the main place that you go? Because a big university, you know, is overwhelming with individual professors who have 1,000,001 things going on. So what is the process to be effective in terms of monitoring these and deciding then what are the ones that could move forward?
Yeah, very good question. Typically, you definitely have to, raise awareness, right? With the universities, there has to be a roadshow. It all starts with that. And when you prepare your collaterals, your materials for a roadshow, you need to get a personality who is respectable in the academia to talk about the, how they need to transform. So it's like the need for new mindset change, ideas, top innovative ideas. We have all these examples to show you because they are in need of ideas. Okay, so you cannot lecture them. They don't like to be patronized in that sense, right? But you have to talk about the opportunities that exist on how to convert their research into systems, into industry-ready solutions. I think headlines like these will catch them, and it becomes a multi-faculty approach. It has to be a multi-faculty approach, and the popular ones typically comes from, of course, the commerce, right? And then there's also the healthcare, medicine faculty. There's the humanities, okay, and there's also the maths and sciences. So when you have a neutral topic that cuts across faculty's interest, right? You can only hit one benefit, which is, okay, how you convert you yourself publish 10, 20 publications, right? And these are all readily available in public domains, right? You go to the university's research platforms and all their publications, right? These are free. Thousands, tens of thousands of research are already made freely available, right? So how do you turn that raw material, so to speak, research material that's available for free, into a commercial, into a monetary model, right? So when you look at all the research that's done fantastically by tens of thousands of researchers, they are available for free. You don't have to pay for it. But now you're giving an opportunity for the academicians to come forward and say, we can convert your TRI 1 to 3 to become 4 to 9. Work with us, work with the industry, will make you an AI-preneur, will make you a hero. Okay, you're the author, you're the project owner. We give them ownership, Okay, we give them opportunities to make them, while retaining their jobs, they can still become a technopreneur or AIpreneur, right? So when you have all these things happening, right, you have to engage them. You engage them one-on-one, okay, which is what we do, okay, or as a group, a bunch of same folks, colleagues in some faculty. Then you offer them, right? You tell them that, okay, submit your research titles, okay, let's say up to 3 per lecturer, right? Per researcher, okay, and then the multiplier comes in. Then we will select. We'll select, shortlist and select a few that industries would want to have. Then we match it against the grant. Help them apply, help them prepare the paper, the proposal, non-academic manner, right? And then we submit, approve, and consequently, in parallel, we go into crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and partnering outside of the grant. So there are multiple ways to get the attention of funders, not just through grants alone.
Okay.
Okay.
We've only got a couple minutes left, and I think we're going to spill over into the next hour. So I do want to ask one more question. So
Sure.
I'd say finish up this, and then I have this one more question, and then we'll move on to the next session, I suppose. But there's one more key question I want to make sure we address.
So you're referring to another question by Maimun, is it?
No, it's actually, so I think this is a good start on this part of it, and it raises another question that for the folks that are attending and for all of us to understand. So you've identified kind of key stakeholders in all of this. You've identified people who have the basic idea and have a research paper. So the university folks. And in business, it would be a business person. So when we talked last week about centers of excellence around helping companies get to the next level, the basic idea is the same, right? It's a business that has an idea. And so the idea comes in and it's processed by, you called it you person. So Maimun, let's use Maimun as the example. So you've got the person with the idea, you've got you, which is Maimun in this particular case, you've got MyFinB, you've got Global Chamber, and I think that's the main core of entities. So could you address, in the case of Maimun, what's in it for him? So, it sounds like he's doing a lot of work to be able to either get ideas from the universities or from companies to bring these things in. And then there's a funding entity. I guess that would be another person that would be kind of in the mix of this. So what would Maimun need to do in this scenario? And then what does he get out of it? What's the value back in the end?
Okay, great. Great question yet again. So basically, there are two scenarios that Maimun will face, okay, or probably is facing right now. Number one is MyFinB Malaysia or MyFinB Singapore partners with a local entity in Singapore or Malaysia, right? And then they will apply as per diagram. They will apply for the scheme, for the grant. They get us to build an AI prototype or system around them. I will call Maimun. Maimun, would you like to be our knowledge partner to contribute in an area that you're good at? Or you have some Bangladeshi partners or foreign partners that could be part of our advisory team, and they get compensated as part of the budget deliverables that are embedded into the project. So we have a list of allowable items that is approved by the grant issuers, right? They will say, you can pay this much for salary, you can pay this much for training, you can pay this much for stationery or whatnot, or IP acquisition or knowledge and blah, 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 right? So there are allowable items that are dictated by the grant issuer. You can't go beyond that. There's a cap up to 30% for this, up to 50% for that, up to 10% for this, and so on, right? So it will be governed by he will be rewarded based on his deliverables and items that are governed by the schemes, meted out by the grant as part of the grant policies, right? So that's one way, and that's assuming that he's the foreigner who comes to the country, to Southeast Asia, to be part of the consulting team together with his consortium of GC advisors and so on and so forth. So you're basically unleashing experts. However, the second situation that Maimun put out now, right, in the Q&A box, is that, okay, now what happens is the table is, the coin is flipped. It's in Bangladesh. So same thing, right? The conversely, the Bangladeshi party will have to be the applicant. Okay, they have to be the beneficiary. And now Maimun is saying, can we come out with a concept and build the prototype with MyFinB to pitch to these funds? So we come out with a concept, we come out and bring out hundreds of ideas that can solve, let's say, Bangladesh microfinance or consumer or textile industry using AI system, market insights, whatnot, right? So we pull the ideas together, we submit, as a consultant. So Maimun's team will be the local applicant, local beneficiary. So they will acquire our services, quote unquote, for free, because they use the government innovation and private funds, right, to pay for the services. But in return, MyFinB would not want to take in all 100% as a consultant, as an AI partner. We continue to be an AI partner, but we still need a country partner like GC Bangladesh or Dhaka, right, to be our local country consultant. So if you look at the screen now, right, so imagine this is in the context of, this is a foreign scenario, right? Scenario one. So the other scenario is you are the local, the applicant is a local. In this case, Maimun is a local, right? So we still become AI partner, but guess what? Okay, we still need the knowledge partner and country partner to be part of it. So they will get part of the budget that was meant for us, which we channel part of it to the country and knowledge partner to be our local consultant. And the rest of it is the same. The only difference is this one here, right? The only difference is this one here. Okay. So previously you are the foreigner. In this second example, you are the local player, which gives, priority, right? The government will always support the local partner. I mean, the local government will always support the local partner for this. So yes, we do help in this case. Yeah. Hope it makes sense.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, we have come to the end of the hour, and I think this has been a useful conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing before we wrap it up? And maybe if you could kind of touch on what do you see as the next steps?
Right. So we have not reached out the full maximum potential of the GC network. So we are receiving definitely in small batches, which is just as good because I like the proximity. I like the closed interaction that led us to the formation of a WhatsApp chat group on this. So I would like those who just tune in, or rather those who tune in for this to be joining us for the next steps. Okay, so if I can just pull out something a little bit, just give me a minute. I have another slide to share. I mean the previous weeks. I would like those who are not able to join the first time around, right, to join our WhatsApp chat group. So I'm not sure whether I can send the link here. Doug, do you have the link for them to join? I think that's the first step for them to join.
Are you talking about the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody has that. So if you don't have that, let us know. Type something in the Global Chamber WhatsApp group, and we'll make sure that you're linked over.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it, because I don't have my analyst here with me tonight to send the link. But I think that's the first step. The first step is that you got to be in the circle. You got to be involved in the basic aspects of running the center. So, but what I want to share with you is the part where we want you to be familiar on some of the programs. Oh, I found it. Just give me a minute. Let me find it. Okay. So those of you who are looking from your desktop, if you can do a screen of this, you can get it there. Now, once you have done it, what you go through is that you will learn on how to run the CAI at your own respective chapters. You go through the opportunities, you go through the business model in more detail. You will understand the support, the kind of support that will be given to you, which I'll show you very briefly, and how to approach the parties to come forward, whether Maimun is approaching a university or a government or a non-profit sectors or a private listed company or public listed company, right? So there are different techniques and collaterals that exist that could help you to relay the message clearer. And we also work out with you on the outcome, the tangible, intangible outcome that comes also with a timeline and a roadmap. So we go through this exercise quite a bit with all our partners. Yeah. So I think that's important. And then just to share with you, you make money from what? I think you make money from, let me go through the business model. This is the discussion from our previous basic session. Yeah. Oops. Okay, there you go. So a bit of time lag. So when you run the Center of Excellence, right? There are readily available plug and play models that cost as little as $36 per report, and can go as much as $500,000 to 2.5 million project value. That is carried out by our team, who will support you in various aspects. Okay, so it provides that diversity in your business model. It creates new streams of revenue that goes for high margin, low volume, or low margin, high volume kind of situation. So nobody is left out in the world of AI, right? And we support you in terms of publications, webinars. We follow you for meetings. We support you with meeting materials, and we help you to implement all the way. So this is already experienced by some of the GC partners who are also present here in this window. So we created a lot of mind maps, roadmaps, and support them on a daily basis. And in terms of help desk, we also help them in terms of operational side, technical, analytical, sales, and commercial. You literally have to just open the doors and we will do the delivery for you. And along the way, we see the need to train the local in-house, in-country people. We will do the certification, as mentioned earlier. And when you reach out to them, it's either they come to you to use AI or they come to ask you for building an AI, right? So university is one of the segments, okay? So what the examples I showed you earlier is actually this one here, right? Universities is only one aspect here. Okay, it's not even the full scope. In Africa, we do a lot with the stock exchanges, credit bureaus, right? So it depends which button you're pressing. So each of these has the own pitching, has its own decks, has its own collateral. And you can't absorb everything at one go. You have to be step by step based on your own network, based on your strength. We do that. Okay, but just to let you know, we are able to cover all this across all these verticals. Because AI is industry agnostic, right? So we're not experts in everything, but we are just know how to manage data being applied into each of these sectors. So what I'm saying is that if you join the GC or CI at GC, right, you'll be exposed to running these centers. okay, and running these programs. Okay, it's very, very, good model for you to pursue. There's a lot of case studies, a lot of track record that you can do. I think there's a latest one. Shankar, you're online, right? So they actually brought us venture broadcast. So these guys are buying our reports, okay, to help facilitate businesses with now 200 over 1,000 investors. They just acquired some database of some sort from 25,000 Indian investors to 200 over 1,000 investors. So they want the reports to be made available to the investees as part of their service as an investor relations advisory company. Okay. So yeah, so there are many, many ideas that can be built. So the ones that you saw earlier will be relating to the universities that are producing many of these solutions anyway, but they are from academic side. They need partners on the industry side. All right, so I think that's it. This is very important for you. Join us to learn to earn, and you can diversify income stream. You can rejuvenate your business model, less labor intensive model. So it's a lot of human relations, but at the end of it, technology drives the outcome. And then be in AI business without knowing coding or programming. That's our promise to you. No learning of programming and coding required. So I think this is the great opportunity for you to adopt and embrace this model, yeah, as some of you have experienced. Okay.
Very good. Thank you for your time today. Thanks those who attended. We'll be back in touch with next steps, and I know many of you are already involved directly, and let's keep moving forward. Obviously, there's so much opportunity here, right? This is where the world is going. There are so many different ideas and thoughts that are coming out of the pandemic to be able to not just rejuvenate, renew what they had been doing, but really create some new opportunities. And that's what a lot of this is about, is creating new opportunities for the business world and for you. Which translates into revenue. So the specifics may still be a little bit still fuzzy, I would say. But in terms of overall, I think we're on a really good track. And Nazri, really appreciate you sharing today, and appreciate in advance working out a little more detail around what the next steps are. But I think everybody should, as you have questions, please send them in, and we'll have another conversation, I'm sure, very, very soon.
Baby steps, as you said. Thanks a lot, Doc and Cesar. Looking forward to everybody's involvement with the baby steps and scaling up in a phased approach. So step by step, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first 10 to 12 metros, the people that have the highest level of interest, is the best way to do it. Let them be the early adopters for this, and then as we have success, then use those successes for a next wave. And so over the next few months, I think that seems like a really good approach. So thanks again, Nazri. We'll be in touch. Appreciate you signing on today late in the evening, but it sounds like that's something that you're very comfortable with. Thanks for your 24/7 approach.
With lots of naps in between during the day, I think it's not a problem to serve markets like yours. So in any case, thank you so much. Have a good week ahead. Yeah. So I look forward to a day when all the respective EDs and advisors from different chapters start talking about the first 10, speakers will be lined up to share their experiences, to share their vision for the Center of Excellence and the kind of projects underneath each chapter that they're carrying. So we've got a few handfuls so far that are ready to speak, I'm sure, but I'll need the magnificent 10 to come forward and share their experiences and their baby milestones and baby achievements. Yeah, as a start.
Okay. At this point, who do you see as the furthest along?
Sorry, who's the furthest?
Who are the furthest ones along within the network?
Well, we've had Shankar, who has opened up quite a bit of MOUs and a lot of parties. If you were to look at what he has opened up and what we are serving him for, you'll see quite a diverse. He can grow very fast. Then, of course, we have the different. We have Nelson. We have what's the name of the lady from Costa Rica and
Norris.
Mexico? Norris, of course, right? So these three are the most active ones, but of course the rest are coming forward. We are not pressuring them. We are feeding them bits and pieces of information. I may have missed out a few names. Please pardon me. I have to look at all my case notes prepared by my team. But these are the active. Of course, coming forward will be Maimun and Raihan. I think separately they've contacted me quite a bit on what's happening in South Asia and what we need to do there. So I think, yeah, I may have missed out a few, like I said, but there will be about 3 to 5 definitely that we can bring them forward to share the experiences. But I would get a variety of them coming forward, more of them to come forward.
Okay, very good. So we look forward to taking the next steps. Thanks again for your input today and your time to share this information. And so for you, have a good evening, and we'll start our day here on Wednesday.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys and ladies.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon.
Talk soon.